Hello guys, welcome back. If you want to do a really nice and realistic dust storm simulation, right play. Stay tuned and watch the tutorial. Okay, so first of all, let's create a grid. This grid is going to be on the y-axis, and we're going to make it 200 wide, 100 tall. I usually set this to the bottom by copying and pasting the relative reference and dividing it by 2. I also want to have more squares, so I have more resolution. I think this is okay. And then usually sandstorm have like a bubbly shape like this. Okay, so I want to group the top part and move it in a soft way. So let's create a group. This group is going to be called soft, and I'm going to use the $os. So with the middle mouse click, we can watch the name of the node. So what is the thing that we're going to do here is we're going to select the points, enable this, go to bounding regions. So we know the width, so we can copy this parameter and on the z-axis paste this relative reference. See, now we have all this and we want this to be on the top. So what we know is the height, so let's copy this and translate this on the y-axis. See, now we have the top part. Once we have this, we can do a soft transform, so, and move this by this group on the z-axis. And with this middle mouse button, we will scroll the wheel. And let's adjust something similar to this. We don't need to be so precise. I think that something like this should be working, I believe, yeah. And now we want to move this constantly on the x-axis, see? So we are going to use the following expression, $t multiplied by 10. And now this is moving. Let's also calculate the normals because we're going to need them on the points. And let's make the shape with a point up. This is going to be the shape, and we're going to distort this by a color based on our normals. So if we plug in a noise, and we set this to the position, this to the color, you can see something. Let's make this smaller, 0.01, 0.01, and 0.01. Okay, so revert the channels, and there we go. Now we see this color. See, I'm going to disable the wireframe. Okay, here we go. So a couple of things that we got to keep in mind are the following. How would we displace this? We usually use a 3D noise, but I want to displace it along the normals. So we know this is a value that should go from 0 to 1. The moment it's not. So we know that the norms go in a certain direction. So let's multiply the norms by the color. But this should go the other way around because we want to have a vector as a result. And we also want to add this to our current position. We watch the result, we can have something like this. We're not seeing much, but if we multiply constant this out and we increase, we will have a displacement. Okay? This is actually very nice. So let's make this a little bit higher, or let's organize this a little bit, and I want to repeat this a couple of times. 2 more times will be okay. And this will be our low noise, this will be our mid noise, and this will be our high noise. We can do the following, put them all here. I want to delete this one. There we go. So now we have 3 types of noises. We'll have this will be 10 times smaller in resolution, obviously, and we will delete this for the time being, and we will also have this, which should be set to, I don't know, maybe 3. This will be really nice looking. So we had this is awful at the moment because we have a lot of multi-const. Let's lower this guys a little bit. Set this to 1, this to 1, and this to 1. We have nothing. at the moment. See? I'm going to have more low frequency noise, which is the big noise, and I want this to be smoother, so let's lower the roughness a little bit. Let's increase a little bit more this noise, and I also want this to be stripes going top and down. Okay, so if I increase this value here a little bit, we will compress this like so. We can multiply this a little bit to see how it looks. A lot more noise. I think this is okay. So we should add one more thing, which is these results, which are these results merged into a little nice add node, little add node. But remember that if we watch the color, this is in fact clamped. We have negative values, so we want only to add numbers that go from 0 to 1. So we should clean them like so. Now we only have positive values. So as we move, the noise will evolve like so. We want to have one more thing, which is the offset of this low noise. Let's promote this with the middle mouse click. And once we promote this, we can multiply this by a value. Let's say $time multiply by 3. And let's see how this evolves really fast. So maybe we want to have 0.3 instead of 3. Now watch this. Kind of fast, so we can mess around with this a little bit more. And now I have something really nice. So this is cool. I'm going to reduce the roughness of these guys. I don't want to have such a sharp artifacts here. Okay, this should be it. This is way better. Now we need to recalculate the normals. Again, this should be set to points, and we need to add with another point, but our velocity. Our velocities, if we plug in the normal, will set to the opposite. I'm going to make this even bigger so we can see the vectors to 10 or to 30, maybe 90. There we go. So these are our velocities and these are our normals. As you can see, they are opposites. So we are going to have this velocity going in the direction. What we want to do is to have like a really nice movement between the normals and our color, which is the CD, our black and white. So I'm going to just show the velocity at the moment, and we're going to use a cross product. The cross product is, imagine if you have a vector pointed upwards and a vector pointing forward. Cross product will be perpendicular vector from these two values, so it will be going there. If we move these two vectors, our cross product will also be moving. So let's use the normals, and let's use this to the -0, and let's see what happens with the velocity. Now they look more swirly, right? That's due to our vectors. But I want to use another one, and I want to use the following: the normals cross product by our previous cross product. So we will have something very interesting like so. Have a look. And now I want to mix between these two values. Okay, let's use the mix color like so, and we can have a bias, and the bias can be our color. It's not necessary. See, this is already nice. I don't want to use only the color. I want to use a relative bounding box. The relative bounding box is like the whole box, and set to 0 to 1. We stop watching the vectors. We will have an RGB color, but if we vector plot this and only get our Y position, we will have a black to white. We want to have the opposite, so let's fit range this to the negative value from 1 to 0, and let's ramp this like so with a spline ramp. This is black because we need to go outside and move this upwards, and we are going to lower this like so. I want to have more velocity and more smoke going in the downwards direction. So we should add these values doing the following. Going to CD here, and now we have both values, and we can even use the same color as a mask for our vectors. See, we remove this, we have this. If we add this, we have that. So now that we got this interesting resolution or these interesting velocities, let's see how it looks. Okay, we are missing something more, which is the point velocity. This is a really nice way to add some kind of curl noise. For example, setting this to 25 and 25, setting this to 0.05 and 25. As soon as we go to 25, this to 1. There we go. So now we have this, and if we change the scale, we'll have like bigger or smaller noises. I want to have maybe, there we go, something like that. Now we should plug this into a pop network. So now that we have this, we can use our birth. We will have this to 0.2 and this to 0.1. We will also want to go to negative interpolation backwards and use point velocity. This will make us have like a more interesting birth over particles. I just want to use all points and an attribute to use inherited velocity. Let's use -8 and see what happens. So I think this is okay. We can use a pop force, and we can have like we're gonna have 100 of amplitude by 100 of size. We can even help these particles move forwards. I don't know, maybe 5 force going forwards. Let's see what happens. Okay, this is interesting. This is really interesting. Yes, this might be helpful for us. Okay, so now that we have this, we can go outside and set a wrangle. And want our density. Okay, while watching that we don't have a final thing, we should have a scatter set to density, CD, 10,000s, and relax points. Now we're talking. There we go. See? Now we are only having what we want. This is way interesting. Maybe this is too much. We will have to be controlling this as we move forwards. So we want to have the density being the same as CD, and we want to have the velocity multiplied by big function that goes over the length of our position in the y-axis. This position will go from 0 to maybe 80, and we will be setting this to, okay, at the bottom, hence 0. Let's multiply this by 1.5, and at the top, we will multiply this by 1. So the bottom will be stronger. F and F. There we go. So let's watch our velocities with and without. See? I'm multiplying these forces at the bottom. This is okay so far. Okay, so we are going to have this kind of motion in our velocities. Really disturbing, right? This will be the power thing. We also want to rasterize attributes, and we're going to use these values: copy, base relative. We're going to copy and multiply and base relative and divide it by 4. This will have a nice feedback between size and scale. We don't have anything yet, so let's add a density. We have something. Let's do 2 and 2, and let's also add velocity. This velocity blur this to 1 and clamp this. If we move this shutter, we will have more or less distortion in our fields. So I want to have something like that. See? Let's add on the shelf bar point light. We can see a little bit better what we are or what we have. And let's go into, after adding a null that is out source, go into our solver, our DOP network. Let's add a DOP network right here. Inside here, what we need to do is to prepare. I want to have this set here, and let's do a DOP import fields. This will go here. So this will go here. We are going to use the object from this simulation, and we're going to use the smoke. We are only going to export the rest, the temperature and the field. We're going to place our mouse here, and we're going to visualize this volume and set this to density, and the density scale to 0.2. So we're going to leave this mouse here and press this button. Let's hop in. Smoke object will be sparse, the smoke solver will be sparse. We're going to connect our smoke object to the left input. Okay. And we're going to set this to 4 to start with, and we're going to use a smoke volume source. We're going to place this on the third input, and we are going to select on objects read out source. We're going to enlarge these fields, and we're going to use the smoke object. We don't have temperature, so we can delete this, and velocity still be like that at the moment. This will be the source. Let's make a merge, and let's use a ground. See what happens just after we split this. This is wrong. Wait, it's wrong. Oh, this should be sparse. Sparse object. There we go. Now we're talking. Let's go backwards. It's too much. We'll go to set this to 4. Now we go. Okay. This is already working nicely, but we have really bubbly shapes, and we do not want to have that. So we have to do a couple of things. First of all, let's go to our advanced. We don't have anything. We're going to use to advection, clamp this to BFECC. We're going to merge this. We're going to add another merge, and we're going to set our masks. That mask will be set to our velocity. With only 2 nodes, we're going to have the following: match gas fill. Match gas fill is going to take as reference the size of a container and make a new one with the name we want. It can be scalar, vector, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to use speed as our mask and set the reference field for velocity. And we're going to use the same field that we created to make a calculation. This will be set to length, so we're going to use the magnitude of the velocity. So now that we have the gas analysis set to length, we should set this to speed and this to val again. So let's add a disturbance, and our disturbance will be set to the forces, and we will use 250. The cutoff will be kind of the same. The block size will be set to 6. Our block size is the scale of the noise. Let's go into our control and plug the speed here. Since this is a really big simulation, we'll be going to 0 to 100, and let's see what happens. Okay, we are seeing that something is going on here. See? This is really interesting. Maybe we want to move the cutoff or the threshold to maybe something like 15. And perhaps we want to have more octaves and a little bit more lacularity and maybe a little bit more roughness. And let's see what happens. Okay, this is actually very interesting, but I want to have more detail. I'm on a 2 voxel size now. So this will be our log. We're going to merge this and add another one. There we go. This will be set to 3. I'm going to leave the same results. Maybe this to 8 instead of 100 and go backward. Now we should have smaller size details. This should be breaking even more. Okay, this is very interesting. Okay? Perhaps we need more resolution to see the details even more. Yeah, see, this is breaking over here, which is very nice. And this should be starting to break here. We don't want so much, we don't want this to be so puffy. I believe this is very nice from forwards moving simulation. Perhaps we can even lower our control fields here. Instead of 100, let's go to 50. This should start breaking even more the silhouette. Remember, this is set to velocity, so the more velocity we have, the more ramp we will get, or the more distortion we will be getting. Okay, very nice. For only a couple of frames, I'm going to use 0.5 so we can iterate faster. This is, remember, this is how much we're going to cut, so let's use a 0.5 as usual. So we should be having more distortion all over the place. Okay, we're getting distortion here, places that we still didn't have before. We can do the same here, of course. Go to 0.1 and see what happens. This is very nice, very interesting. This is too destructive for our environment, so we might need to lower our roughness by 3. And let's add this will be the mid, and let's add a final one that should in fact be the low one, our high one, low, mid, high. Okay, and the block size will be set to 1. That's about it. Let's see what happens. In order to see this high, we should have more resolution in our simulation. So I'm going to do a flipbook. I will set this to 0.8, a really small size, and I will create this flipbook going to maybe 120. Okay, so we have this result. I believe it is very nice. And this is very turbulent, so we might reduce the noise a little bit. So I'm going to do that and come back again. I'm going to lower this by I'm going to lower this 3 times, like so. I'm going to copy the same here and here. This even a little bit more. This is smaller. And let's watch again our final result. So okay, so I really like the shapes that we have around here and around here. This is very nice, and this is like a more controlled version of this. We can even move around a little bit, another like a turbulence or another kind of motion. For example, a vortex confinement. I'm going to do the final simulation with a little vortex confinement and see how it looks. We should go to vortex confinement here, and let's add this around here to 4, and we won't change anything. Okay, so the simulation finished, and I believe this is a very interesting shape. As you can see, we have a really nice vortex here. It's like a weirdly motion going inwards and outwards. Maybe we have too much small noise, or the resolution is not that high to capture all these details. But still, this is a really nice setup that we made in like, I don't know, 20, half an hour, and we can move forward to add even more detail. Hi guys, I hope that you enjoyed the tutorial. If you like my content, please leave a like, subscribe, and you can join our Discord channel where we will be showcasing every kind of different simulation. Stay tuned, and until next time.